Okay, everyone, here are the answers for Trimester 1 exam. Section 1, Grammar, Parts of Speech. All of the members, all will be a pronoun, so that would be AC. Bicycling is a great national pastime. It comes before this noun, so that makes it an adjective. My friends and I were swimming, that's our verb. You swim effortlessly, that's an adverb. Exceptionally brave, brave is an adjective, so exceptionally tells us to what extent were they brave, therefore another adverb. On the boardwalk, preposition, AB. Wow, interjection, letter E. Both, pronoun, AC. Team, noun, letter B. Our boys, so now this could be a pronoun or an adjective, but because it comes right before the noun, boys soccer team, we will make this adjective. Which soccer team? Letter A. Instrumental, following the linking verb were, will be an adjective. And is a conjunction. Okay, so that's our first section. Parts of a sentence. Linking verb are, the only thing that can follow linking verbs are predicate adjectives or predicate nominatives. These are nouns, so they're predicate nominatives. Seems real, that will be a predicate ad because seem is going to be a linking verb. Give what? Give a sense to whom, for whom, readers. So that's going to be indirect object, C. Reading is the subject. Who gives writing a good name? Gives what? Gives a good name. I guess writing would be, this would actually be an object complement, but for this case, we'll make it the direct object. Right? Gives what? Good name to whom, for whom, writing could be indirect. Remains will be our verb. So I got to put E here. Oh, and I put direct object here. Sorry about that. That should be letter D. Just plain old D. He prefers who or what he prefers authors. So that will be our direct object, D. And he could be is our verb. That means scholar has got to be a predicate nominative. So that's got to be B. Okay, so here we are with phrases. Wants to study, that's to plus a verb, so that's got to be an infinitive. My cousin Bill from Massachusetts, that's going to be in a positive phrase. A quick-witted and diligent student, that's also going to be in a positive phrase. Researching minerals, this ends in ing. It's either participial or gerund because it follows the word by. It's the object of the preposition, so it's going to be a gerund phrase, D. Beside the sound, where did they rest? They rested beside the sound. So obviously this is a prepositional phrase, but it will be an adverb prepositional phrase. The students on the trip. Which students? The students on the trip, modifying the noun students, so B, adjective phrase. Going against the grain, and then I follow it up with Heather. So this has got to be a participial because it's acting as an adjective. Students like that give going the extra mile purpose. Give going the extra mile will be the indirect object because it gives what? Gives purpose to whom, for whom, going the extra mile. So in either case, it's going to be a gerund phrase. Okay, and when it comes to clauses, we want to know the three different types. She is the person whom I most trust. It's telling me about which person, so it's going to be an adjective clause. Before we left tells me when we closed the door, so that's going to be adverb. Discovered what? Discovered direct object, noun clause. Will you move so that I can see? To what extent will you move? Adverb. What Harrison feels he needs is his own office. See, immediately it comes before the verb, so that's going to be the subject of the sentence, therefore it's the noun. He's very concerned about object of the preposition, noun clause. He is the governor who has done the most, so that's going to be an adjective clause. Okay? Clamor is noise, uproar. Touchstone is test of purity. To abdicate, as in the throne, is to give it up. Despotism is power over something. An infidel is a non-believer. Ingenious is clever. Impious is disrespectful. Delusive is misleading. Like think of the word delusion. Propitious is anything that is favorable. And refulgent is something that is bursting with light. Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence outlines the long train of abuses and I would guess this is going to be AB, usurpations. Patrick Henry states that we should not lie supine on our backs. In The Raven, Poe refers to the raven as stately, yet not showing the least obedience or respect to the speaker. In the aforementioned poem, the despair of the speaker over his lost lover, Lenore, shows that there is no resolution to calm his tortured soul. His grief, after all, does not emanate from the raven, but from his own volition, his own choice. Poe, in many of his works, seems to revere, honor, respect a female figure. In order for this country to move forward, both Republicans and Democrats will have to show kindness, AC, magnanimity, large in spirit. On the right page, yep. Okay, so now we're into our literature. Author's technique. Keep an eye on literary devices here. Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Using words like remember, December, and ember creates rhyme. Which word pair helps to develop the mood of the poem? Out of all of these, probably bleak and ghost, resetting the ominous tone. As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucrezi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me, Lucrezi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. And yet some fools will say his taste is a match for your own. Speaker number 1 is insidiously preying upon the vanity of speaker 2. We'd have to know that from the Cask of Amontillado. The words of speaker 1 illustrate his shrewd ability to manipulate somebody. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country. In this excerpt, the writer's use of blank reflects the unreliable nature of the colonists. Well, it's got to be summer and sunshine, because it's not always going to be summery and it's not always going to be shining the sun. And so these people are only there when times are good. These words are written, so we have to know that the crisis was written during the Revolutionary War, when people were losing interest. The swamp, blah, 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 blah. This is a description of the area where you would find Old Scratch. He uses these specific words to develop the setting. It helps to create an ominous feeling. The idea that there's dark and stagnant pools, things are half drowned, looking like alligators. Depicting the swamp as thickly grown with gloomy pines makes use of grown, gloomy, great alliteration. It is natural to man to indulge in the illusion of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of the siren. What is the writer comparing here? This one. His attempt to cling to false hope by being lured in to the siren song. He incorporates the use of allusion here to Greek mythology. The wrath of God is like great waters that are dammed for the present. They increase more and more and rise higher and higher. These words appeared in Jonathan Edwards' sermon. The author makes use of let's see, metaphor and comparison. And, oh, no, wait, simile here, right? Because he says like. He makes use of simile. The excerpt helps to convey, probably, I would say, D, man's helplessness and God's omnipotence. He had left his Bible at the bottom of his coat pocket and his big Bible on the desk buried under the mortgage he was about to foreclose. Okay, so the portion of this excerpt that has the greatest symbolic importance is the fact that he has his Bible beneath his business. Thou hast on house on high, framed by that mighty architect. It's purchased and paid for, too, by him who hath enough to do. The author uses pairs of lines that rhyme. Those are called couplets. The excerpt makes use of extended metaphor. And the phrases hast, house, and high create an image that is alliterative, and it is of heaven. Okay, now we're going to go step by step, examining each piece. The sky tree is categorized as a myth because it attempts to explain how the world came to be, or part of it came to be. In the history of Plymouth Plantation, he reveals how nearly half of their population died of illness and starvation. In the history of Plymouth Plantation, God is present in many ways. Which of the following is true? This never happened, and this never happened, and this never happened, so it's this one. God sent them Squanto. He was an instrument from God. When Bradford refers to St. Paul's arrival on the Isle of Malta, he is contrasting their arrival and the savages who lived there with Paul's. The speaker in Ad Bradstreet's Upon the Burning of Our House admits that although she will miss her earthly possessions, she knows she is being vain. In the sermon, he uses certain images like a spider and a lonesome insect and a venomous serpent in order to denote how repulsive man is in God's eyes. In the sermon, Edward chides his congregation for thinking their righteousness and good works will keep them out of hell. Instead, he likens it to a flimsy spider web that's trying to stop a rock from falling. Edwards used all of the following images to depict God's wrath, except, well, he does the great waters, we just saw that one. He does black clouds. He does a bow and arrow. He just doesn't do a forest fire. Founding Father Patrick Henry was prophetic because he predicted the outbreak of war in New England. Life without freedom is akin to death. One of the most famous lines of Thomas Paine's Crisis is, "These are the times that try men's souls." Which statement by Paine captures the idea that they must see the war through? Probably "He whose heart is strong." The conclusion of the Declaration asserts all the following except C. They don't want to stay under the British crown. Come on, we all know that. In The Devil and Tom Walker, he uses details to depict the miserly ways of both Tom and his wife. Which of the following reflects their stinginess? Probably a hen could not cackle, but she was on the alert to secure the egg. Tom gets the attention of Old Scratch when he kicks a skull. What's going on with the trees in the forest? They are symbolic of the sinners in the town. They're flourishing outwardly, but they're rotten to the core. Okay, what's the meaning of this line? However Tom might have felt disposed to sell himself to the devil, he was determined not to oblige his wife. His hatred for his wife is actually stronger than his desire to make money and make a bargain. Tom lost his patience and his piety, shows that his conversion was really hypocritical. In The Raven, the narrator tries to forget his sorrow by reading volumes of forgotten lore. After the speaker confesses that he's dreaming dreams no mortal dream ever dared dream before, he calls out his lover's name, hoping she has come back from the grave. Having the raven perch upon the bust of Pallas Athena illustrates the idea that the bird will perhaps give him wisdom. Asking such desperate questions like, will he be reunited with Lenore in heaven, while knowing that the word nevermore is the raven's only stock in store, proves the degree to which the narrator is willing to torture himself. In The Pit and the Pendulum, the narrator falls when he trips on his robe. This is a blessing in disguise because it prevents him from falling into the pit. After drinking the drugged water, he realizes all the following except there is no window that he wants to escape from. Letter C. At first, the narrator thinks he can avoid being sliced by the pendulum because the blade would cut right where the surcingle is. Ultimately, the narrator escapes the pendulum with the rats, right? So let's see where that one is. Using the rats to his advantage. In The Cask of Amontillado, Fortunato prides himself on being a connoisseur of wine. Why were there no servants when Fortunato came? Because Montresor told them he would be out for the night, and so they scurried away. Reverse psychology. Fortunato asked Montresor to give him a sign to prove that he was a mason, but what did Montresor do? He played a joke and pulled out a trowel, like a brick mason. Which line hints that maybe Montresor had second thoughts? Probably, my heart grew sick. On account of the dampness, he quickly recovers. Jean returns to Devon to find an internal sense of balance, right? Finney doesn't like Jean's West Point stride because it represents rules and rule makers. When does Jean realize that Finney's not jealous? Just before the fall from the tree, the first fall. When visiting Finney's house, Jean decides to retract his confession of guilt when he realizes that the confession is going to hurt Finney even more. Why does Finney want Jean to train for the Olympics? Because Finney wants Jean to replace him. Why does Finney invent the story that war is imaginary? Because he really wants to be a soldier and he can't. Leper's telegram interrupts the winter carnival. At the end of the novel, Finney says that Jean was motivated by a blind impulse. And Jean believes that war is caused by something ignorant in the human heart. For our quotes, they yelled back, this is the shoveling of the snow. Nothing endures. This is when he returns to Devon. This is when he was training for the Olympics, Jean, and all of a sudden he hits the zone. This is Blitzball, D. To be silent about this. This was breaking the swimming record, so that's got to be B. And then 10 members, that's the assembly at the end, the trial. Okay, reading comprehension is self-explanatory. You can look over the kinds of questions for the essays, but those are the part 1 responses for trimester 1.